Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Letter Sounds module. In today's lesson, we will cover the importance of the letter sounds, how to say the letter sounds correctly, so that when we're teaching our learners, they are also saying the sounds correctly, as well as strategies for learning and teaching the sounds. After you finish today's presentation, there will be an assignment where you will find your own resources that you find helpful when teaching the letter sounds, and you'll share them with the classmates. Also, there'll be a quick 6-question knowledge check. Lesson 1 is the sounds, the importance of the letter sounds in phonics instruction. Now, when we're talking about the letter sounds, what we're referring to are phonemes. There are 44 phonemes or letter sounds in the English language. Usually, you could think of it as every time that you see a letter, when you're reading, there's a sound that goes with it. So, why are phonemes so important? Well, they're the building blocks of all of our reading instruction. Before we get to actual print concepts, it's really important for our learners to be able to understand how the phonemes or the letter sounds work together in order to build the basic foundation of their reading skills. They do this through phoneme matching, like where they can hear the beginning sound of a word and match it to the same beginning sound of another word. Phoneme isolation, where they can hear the individual sounds in a word, k, a, t. Phoneme blending, where they take the individual sounds and they can put them together, k, at, cat. Phoneme segmentation, where they can break up words into the individual sounds they hear, and phoneme manipulation, where they can change the different sounds at the beginning, middle, and end of words to create and make different words. Like, for example, adding an H after the C in cat, it can become chat. Now that we know a little bit more about the letter sounds and their importance, it's also really important to know that how we are saying them affects how we will read them. So every time we're learning about the letter sounds, we want to make sure that we are saying them the correct way. Next, I will go over and demonstrate how to correctly say the letter sounds for each of the letters in the alphabet. If you would like, you can reuse this PowerPoint slide, listen to it again, and practice saying the sounds as well. You can also have your learners do the same. Here are the letter sounds. A, B, K, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, A, P, Q, R, S, T, A, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now you can practice, or you can move on to the next section. Now, the way that phonics instruction progresses after you understand the basic individual phoneme sounds, we can put them together to create different sounds. For example, here we have a digraph chart. When we take two letters and put them together, they make different sounds. So for example, if we take A and Y and put them together, it makes the sound A, like in birthday. Or if we take EA and put them together, we get E, like in read. One of the tricks that I like to teach my students is that when two vowels go a walking, the first one does the talking. So for example, if we look at the word teeth on our digraph chart, it's two E's, so we know that it says E. But if we think of a word like sea, like the ocean, SEA, we still hear that E sound, even though it's the letters E and A. That's because the first vowel is E and it does the talking. And then the A does the walking because we pretend like it doesn't exist. Also, we have our consonant blends. Sometimes when we take two sounds from our consonants and put them together, it creates what we call a blend. If you take a look at the first one, we have B and L, B and L. But when we put them together, we get bull, as in blocks. They make one sound. I like to teach my students that we take the two sounds and put them together. B, wool, b, wool, b, wool, bull, b, wool, b, wool, b, wool, blocks. You can go through the list of digraphs and blends and you can practice saying them. It's also pretty cool to go through different words and circle all of the blends and digraphs that you can find for your learning knowledge and also with your students for fun. Lastly, I want to teach you some strategies for saying the letter sounds and also that you can use when you're teaching your learners letter sounds when they're learning to read. So first I want to focus on the consonant blends. As you can see here, I have the letters B, C, M, F, H, and L. I chose these at random, but also because there's some cool things that you can do with them and think about when you're trying to remember how to say them. So let's focus on the letter B. When we're saying B, we tend to add a to the end of the letters. For example, b, b. But this actually turns our single phoneme into two sounds, b and a. Instead, we want b. So how can I make sure that I'm saying it with just one sound? One trick is to take your hand and put it under your chin. If you're saying the sound correctly, your chin won't drop. B, b. But if you're adding that to the end, your hand will get pushed down. Ba, ba. Now you practice. Ba, 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 ba. You can have your students take their hand and slip it under their chin and practice saying the sounds. B, k, m, f, ooh. Good job. Now, the vowels are some of the trickiest sounds to make because they're all very similar, but they have very different nuances about them. So I want to briefly go through how I teach my students about the vowel sounds. So first we have A, which is ah. I like to do the motion like we're yelling, ah. This makes the students have their mouth very wide and reminds them to say the ah sound. Now the next letter is E. That E sound is eh, which is very similar and can sometimes get confusing for our students. What I like to do is go like that's gross, kind of like they're saying ew. Like they're getting sick, or you can think of it like a doctor putting the utensil in their mouth to check their tonsils, and they get a kick out of it. But it helps differentiate from the and the sound. Next is the letter I, which is I. So I like to say like that's gross or it stinks. And the kids really like that. Then for O, we have ah. This one is the one I like to use for the doctor, like they're looking down at my tonsils. Ah. And then lastly, we have U, which is For this one, I like to go, I don't know. Like they're thinking of an answer that they're not sure of. I don't know. So it looks like this if we go in order A, E, I, O, U. Ah, eh, I, ah, and it helps the students not only remember the sounds, but say them correctly. Now that we've learned about the importance of letter sounds and how to manipulate them, we've gone over the correct sounds and practiced saying them and learned some tips and strategies for us to remember the sounds and help our learners learn and remember the sounds. It's time to complete your assignment. You're going to find 2 resources that help you either teach the letter sounds or say the letter sounds, and post a link on the class tablet. You can find the directions in our module on Canvas. I hope you enjoyed the lesson.